awesome to see everybody here at the Northeast Disc Golf Expo, and awesome to see everybody here at this Q&A. My name is Steve Abreu. I'm a partner at Sunstein, and I'm here with my favorite client and friend, Simon Lizotte.
Favorite?
Yeah, why not?
I don't know.
A man who needs no introduction, and you're all here to see, so I'm not going to prattle on. I do have a couple questions just to start, and then we asked people to write out questions at the Sunstein booth. Once we get through a few of those, and if you have questions in the room, we'll leave some time, and Jackie, who's also from Sunstein, has a wireless mic, and we can just put your hands up at that time. But I'll start sort of on the basic things about how are you doing? How's your off-season going?
Pretty good. It's been a wild off season. Not as wild as last year for me, but close. The Eagle signing obviously has been a huge deal. It's been going on back and forth for months. December, I tried doing Vlogmas. Maybe some of you have seen the videos with Drew and Paul. It was a great time, but right after that, I got like a weird knee injury. I actually have a half-torn ACL on my right knee, which flares up every now and then. And then I got weird back pain out of nowhere, so I had to quit Vlogmas, which was devastating because that's something you just can't do. And ever since then, seems like the season's about to start next week again, which is pretty crazy. It's been a struggle to go play. I really want to go play. I'm itching to go throw more, but the weather has also been tricky up here. So It's been kind of laying low. I also got my wisdom teeth, all 4 removed last week. So it's a struggle, but I'm hanging there.
Yeah, you're breaking injury news here. I don't know if we have anybody, the disc golf media guys are still here. So what's the road to recovery then on the back and the ACL?
It's all good again. The knee turned out to be kind of nothing. It was just a little flare up that lasted like 3-4 days. I was just pretty careful with it. Had my talks, you have your talks with the doctors and physical therapists and everything, and I did all that. And then the back was crazy. It came out of nowhere, and my back just started getting sore. And the lower back, most disc golfers probably have some lower back pain experience, and I've been playing disc golf my whole life, throwing pretty hard shots for many, many, many years, too many. And it just got so bad that I couldn't walk for 3 days, and I was very worried for a minute. And went to the hospital and got fixed.
So it reminds me of the elbow injury a couple off seasons ago, right? Where you were like really limited and you were seeing a therapist, but that season, I don't know whether it was the rest, but like when you were back in form, you were back ready to play.
Yeah, my elbow has actually never gotten better, really. It's good enough to play and compete, and I worked with a baseball professional in Boston. They had an amazing team. And he told me basically the injury I have is just something that never gets better. Unless I want to try surgery and stuff like that, which I didn't want to try. But no, I still feel tweaks in my elbow every now and then. Kind of surprisingly, it actually helped my game to slow it down a bit and throw more controlled shots and kind of the smart golf, because you all know on the courses we play, really position is more important than just throwing really far. So the elbow has been a bit of an annoying thing, but I think at the end of the day, kind of really good for my career. It's still there, and I wear the arm sleeve every now and then, but I really need to have like a throw counter, like professional baseball players have. Then it's so tough for me to not just go out all the time, just throw my arm out, because that's what I've always done my whole life. So now I need to be more disciplined and throw the safer shots and don't throw too many shots per day. But, I'm 31 now, so I'm getting older, and it's just part of the journey now.
Yeah. Well, I think anybody who's getting older, right, has to limit their reps and think about like what their future holds. I guess I would not be doing my job if I didn't ask you about Eagle coming to MVP. And Paul, so 2 people that you know very well. Could you just maybe tell the audience a little bit about what role you played in their moves in the off-season?
Yeah, Eagle, of course, even when I left last year, we shared a lot of Airbnbs together. We stay a lot together on tour. And, of course, Eagle is a very curious guy with feeling discs. I don't know if you watched the feeling disc video. He's like the best at that in the world. He's got to be. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Every company, every disc, he can feel it blindfolded. I don't understand how it's possible. But yeah, he went through my bag a lot throughout the year, and of course he saw my results, and we talked a bit about the molds and how it feels and how fun it is to have this new, exciting, fresh thing in your career after so many years doing the same thing. And we knew his contract was up this year, and he was reaching out to a couple different options. And of course, Eagle is Eagle. He's a huge name. He's one of the biggest talents in disc golf. He got a lot of good offers, and I never thought that MVP was going to have what it took to sign Eagle. And it still blows my mind that it happened. It was not sure until kind of recently, actually. He only signed it like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. The talks went on for like 3 months. It was back and forth, and obviously signing an injured athlete is not always the safest thing to do. So there was a lot of things in the contract that were unclear for a long time. But they figured it out, and obviously I'm super stoked. One of the first things Eagle messaged me was, hey, are you cool with me joining Team MVP? Because he was very curious about the whole thing. And I guess I managed to make it look really fun, and he wanted to join this adventure, which kind of also blows my mind because we've always been very competitive with each other, which was one of the reasons actually I wanted to leave Discmania, was this competitiveness with Eagle. Of course, we're friends, but when it comes to like signature disc sales, like, oh, this guy's outselling me, and it was like, it was a bit weird, and I just wanted to like break free from that and just do like my own thing. But then I allowed him back.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited. I know it's going to be really exciting for the first couple seasons with Eagle. I have no doubts that he's going to be a top 3 guy probably all year, probably the next couple of years.
What is it like to go through like a contract negotiation or like having suitors come and send, I mean, so you went through that in the last off season and now Eagle did. Is it something where, and you've got your future to protect, so like what are the types of things that professional athletes in disc golf are thinking about their contract, how it's going to get shaped, and what do they look for in a sponsor?
It's so hard to say in general because Eagle and I are kind of like in special positions in disc golf. Also, disc golf has changed so much in the last 3 or 4 years. I personally did it without an agent. You were kind of mostly my agent. So Steve helped me a lot in the process. Contract talk and lawyer talk is something I don't understand. And I mean, I read a contract and I literally don't understand what it says. So we need lawyers and people to help us figure out everything's fine and safe. But that all goes way beyond my head. I never really paid too much attention to that and care. And Eagle, I think Eagle worked with an agent. I tried to stay out of Eagle's business as much as possible, just because I want him to do his thing and I do my thing. But the question was, what do we look for?
Yeah, like how do you know that the place is going to be home for the next couple of years? Is it the personalities of the people that are reaching out to you, or I'm sure you talk to people who are already under contract with that manufacturer. Did you reach out to James Conrad before you signed with MVP?
Yeah, I was actually at Germ's wedding. That was November of 2022. Yeah, that's right. And James Conrad was there, and I pulled him to the side, and we had a little couple-minute talk for a bit. I just asked him a bit about how he feels at MVP and how they've been treating him, how much they like want him to do stuff, and how involved he is. Because obviously, me at Discmania was like family. Like I was involved in everything, every business decision, every promotion. I was like so part of Discmania. I knew all the behind-the-scenes stuff. I even knew like finances that I probably shouldn't have known. And James was like, yeah, you know MVP. Like if you know James, you know he's just James. He doesn't care. He's like the most carefree guy. And he's like, yeah, they don't ask me to do anything. So I think James has talked to MVP very rarely. It's kind of mind-blowing. And even though it's really fun and cool to be really involved, like I was at Discmania, it's also really cool and fun to not be at all involved, which I have now with MVP. I'm literally just a sponsored athlete, and that's it. I don't do anything really behind the scenes except for my YouTube and to go out and compete. That's all.
And that's great. I mean, that's time that I think you're putting to other pursuits. You have a family life at home and you have your channel to think through. So I'm sure you're using that time to good benefit.
Yeah, finding time to do anything right now is really tough. My wife's a stay-at-home mom, which seems impossible to do for me. I'm gone half the year, which is really tough. Leaving home right now is so tough because my son starts to understand like the concept of me leaving, and I don't understand how people do it. Like, it's so hard every time. Like, this morning we left the house, me and Joey, and he was standing at the door just crying because we were leaving. It's
We had to see him
heartbreaking.
like 3 different times. Like, oh, you come back around and he's still there, and it's just like, it's not even my kid.
Yeah. Yeah, so even though I feel like, of course, I'm lucky and I have this crazy dream life over the last 10 years, touring around, playing disc golf for a living, I still love it. The traveling gets tiring every now and then, and hotels and airports and stuff, I'm sick of it. But obviously I know I'm still really lucky to do what I do, but sometimes I wish I could just stay home and have a job. Even though most people who have a job wish they could go travel and play disc golf. I wouldn't trade right now. I just sometimes catch myself feeling like, man, it would be so nice to just be an Uber driver for a week.
Yeah, I think you can do that. We can set that up. So you gave interviews about when you switched to MVP, one of the reasons why that you were interested is that you were seeking something new, and the newness of a new company, the new discs, the new experience drove you at the last season. How do you keep that feeling, or how do you what's going to drive you this season if it's not that?
It's surprisingly still that. It still feels fresh, it still feels new, and what MVP is really good at is making really nice discs and making tons of new stuff all the time. Like, every time they send me a box of new stuff, and I'm so little involved with the production schedule or anything they're planning that I'm surprised when they send me stuff and it's just a box full of new plastic, full of new molds, and just different experiments. And I mean, the brothers, Brad and Chad, they're so into the science thing and experimenting with what they can do with their robots and their machines and molding and different plastics. So I think I found the right company for me, being also a YouTuber and wanting to be creative and having different cool stuff to show. Now I just need to move to a place where I can actually play year round.
Yeah, we don't want to hear that in this room. We want you to stay here because you've been such an asset to the Massachusetts and New England disc golf community. One of the people, and you've mentored people, I mean, obviously you've been friends with Casey for a long time, and now we see Paul in your videos. So I just want to double back on Paul. So Paul joined MVP, and that must make things a bit easier for your filming schedule. But maybe just a couple words about Paul and what you see for him, and basically, were you involved in his signing with MVP?
Yeah, I actually requested Paul. Eagle, I agreed after thinking for a while, and Paul I requested. Paul's a local kid. I just thought about it, I think last week, like amateur world champion. He almost won the US. And now he won PDGA Rookie of the Year last season. And he's won a bunch of local A tiers. He's achieved so much actually on the local scene and even on the national scene. It's pretty crazy. And of course, I've played with him a bunch. He's a huge talent. He's only been playing for a handful of years too. So he's disciplined. We're at the gym now every day together, getting some off-season training in, doing some putting on the indoor turf field. It's been great. And he's a smart kid. He's going to do it the right way, and he's way better prepared for this tour coming up than I ever was when I started. So, yeah, I just needed a local kid to do videos with, of course. Yeah. Filming will be much easier, and he's keen and ready, which is what I was looking for.
So there have been, a bunch of local kids that looked up to you and were signed with this mania, and Paul's obviously making the change. But I was wondering, and you've said that the sport has changed a lot, but when you were coming over from a foreign country, but who were your idols when you started, and are you trying to give back, so to speak, in that role and mentor some of the younger talent?
Yeah, well, when I started, I was really, really young, and my idols were basically just my local disc golf scene that I had in my hometown. We were a group of 15 people, and I think it's still the same 15 people in that group nowadays. Back in Germany, there was a German tour back then that I played, and of course the best players in Germany were kind of my idols that I would see playing in the final nines and beating me when I was still playing in the junior division. I had some European disc golf idols who were don't know if I should name drop them here, but Marcus Shellstrom, for example, Jesper Lundmark, players from like 10, 15 years ago that were actually top 10 in the world, didn't come over here too much because back then disc golf was still in a very different place. But yeah, I didn't really have these American disc golf heroes for the longest time of my career. And then when I first met Avery Jenkins, Nate Doss came over, Dave Felber came over for European Opens when that all started in like 2005, 6, 7. Ken Climo, of course, the greatest, was an idol forever. But back then there was also no media for me to consume. There wasn't YouTube or anything. There wasn't really internet that I was aware of. We got a Disc Golfer magazine in the mail like every half year. That was my disc golf media. So I didn't really know much about it. And the country I grew up in, professional, not even amateur disc golf really existed, let alone professional. In the continent I grew up, professional disc golf didn't really exist. So it was pretty crazy how that ended up.
The media's changed a lot about how players interact with each other. Some of it for the positive, right? Because you're forming these relationships with younger players through media, and they can emulate pros. But I can see sometimes it's negative, where we get our culture in the sport where somebody said something, and then that leads tour life, and then someone reacts to Brody saying something about someone. And you've stayed mostly out of this. I mean, but it does consume a lot of time on tour, and I wonder whether. Are you seeing that affect sort of the camaraderie amongst the players, or is that just sort of overblown?
I don't know, honestly. I'm friends with everyone. I can't think of anyone that I would have any issues with, which is kind of my goal. I've always been kind of like the floater who like floats around from the one clique to the next, and I'm not like best friends with anyone, but I'm also not no friends with anyone, so I kind of just like float around and get along with everyone.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about a couple more things, and then I'll turn over to the written questions. I know that you're interested in disc golf design, and that you spend a lot of time thinking about disc golf design and seeking feedback on Instagram. I was just wondering whether you think we're missing something in Massachusetts, a type of course that we don't have, or maybe just you could talk through your approach on what you'd like to see. When you pull up to a course, what do you want to see?
That's a really tough question. Well, first of all, I think the main thing holding disc golf back from making it, whatever we want to define as making it, is I think the courses we play. Because the idea and I think the game we're playing is so cool that there's really no reason why it shouldn't be like the coolest game in the world, because I feel like it is. And I've been doing it for 25 years and I still feel like what we're doing out there is so cool and so fun. Like it should catch on. But I think the courses we're playing are not, they're somehow, I don't know if it's the aesthetics of them, or if it's the actual design, or if it's the baskets, or what we could do to make it better. And I've been trying to figure it out. Maybe the answer is just money, literally, and making it like golf where you're playing in paradise and make it just look really nice on camera. But at the same time, making it make sense for disc golf. I don't have the answer for what's the right thing to do, because I was watching the Shelley Sharp Memorial, I think it was last week, and just watching that, I was excited to see disc golf again. Of course, I'm also a fan, and watching AB and Drew battle is just, it's fun for me too to watch, but then I'm like watching it and it just looks like so meh. Like it's so meh. Like even when I sometimes watch back my rounds I play, and even some of the best courses we have, or some pretty courses we have, like the Oregon courses, it's still, you're watching it and I feel like something's not there that should be there and could be there, but I don't know what it is.
Well, the Oregon course and Fountain Hills are not purpose-built, right? They're public parks or they're ball golf courses.
Yes.
And I do think you have to suspend disbelief sometimes when you see a cart path cutting across just because if you're used to watching golf, you're used to it visually making sense.
Mm-hmm.
I do think sometimes the great shots, or like watching great disc golf, it matters a lot your perspective. Like if you're teeing up from up high and you get to see the full flight of the disc, like that makes an exciting hole. And in Massachusetts sometimes, like we're only seeing like 70% of the flight, but there's nothing we can do about it. So maybe it's just a question of like clearing out enough stuff so you can see the full flight, or that you can really understand like what the line is to the basket.
Yeah, I think some genius needs to come along and figure out how we can keep disc golf in the woods, because I think that's where it belongs, and make it still a spectator sport and make it look good on camera. Once we have that, I think we're set.
Yeah. DGN will do that in a couple seasons, I assume. I want to ask you one last question of mine, which is about pressure.
Okay.
Because you're a professional athlete, and you seem, I think, you appear such like a happy-go-lucky guy, but I know you're under tremendous pressure when you're playing. When do you feel the most pressure, and how do you deal with it?
I think the most pressured, I mean, depending on the situation in the tournament, obviously when it comes down the line, that's when it builds up the most. But generally speaking, I think T1, shot one, usually walking up, seeing the gallery, seeing the cameras. Every time still there's some jitters, there's doubts in your mind, and just there's some nerves. And I don't know if that's the pressure or if, yeah, it never went away, the nerves.
Does it matter how big the tournament is? Like T1, hole one at Worlds is more pressure than...
Yeah, I tell myself it doesn't matter, but in reality it matters a bit.
Yeah.
Like if I step up to a local A tier, for example, I would probably feel almost nothing, probably still a little bit, but almost nothing. And then the majors, even though in my mind I can't logically explain why they should feel different, because we're playing against the same players on a similar difficult course, similar amount of rounds. There's no real reason why it should be different, but for some reason, if there's the M next to the tournament, it feels a bit different.
Does it feel different year after year? So because you're a veteran now, like a multi-year veteran, or is it the same as when you started?
I feel like it's getting worse a bit, because the older you get, the more you think, and thinking sucks a lot when you're on the course trying to perform. Yeah, I remember the younger days when you would like have no real worries, no pressure, and you just go out there and play. Like where Gannon Burr is now, for example, like when you watch him make those putts, when he won USCGC, these crazy clutch putts, you were like, how do you possibly do that in that situation? Like, it's because when you're that young, you just don't think, you just freaking do it. That's the ultimate goal, is to turn your brain off, and it gets harder the older you get, I think.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, you have a family support, you have a contract to live up to, so there's more on the line. I mean, not that Gannon's playing just pressure-free, but I think there's reasons for that. Okay, I want to turn over to some written questions that we got earlier today. Lindsay P. asks, how has the game of disc golf changed how you look at life?
Well, not really at all, because I started when I was 2.
So you don't know anything else?
I don't know anything else. I couldn't imagine life without it.
Okay. So people wanted to ask about the animals that you have. Maybe just like a rundown of the pets at home and what you are maybe looking to acquire, or has it gotten out of hand already?
Well, it's kind of a sad story.
Oh no, we've got enough of that. We started with injuries.
Do you want to hear a sad story, or are you good?
Truth. Let's hear the truth.
Well, currently we have 1 cat.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Did they run away? Hopefully they're on a farm somewhere.
No, when my son was born, he had a cat allergy.
Wow.
And the 2 cats that were our younger cats, very adoptable cats, were always in our business, in his room, in our bed. So we had to rehome those. And then the other cat, we had 4 cats before. It was madness. He started peeing on our furniture. And he had bad anxiety, and it was really tough for us to deal with the baby and me being gone all the time. My wife was kind of like losing it. So he also recently found a new home, which was great. And then axolotl tanks have been, oh man. We had 3 axolotls. 1 just stopped wanting to live for some reason. I couldn't explain why. We tried everything to support and help this axolotl, but he just didn't want to eat anymore and just died after a couple of weeks because he didn't eat. The other one my wife gave away when she was struggling. And I think the last one we also gave away after a while, because cleaning the tank and keeping it at the right temperature was all just hard.
Yeah, I was not expecting the pets question to be the one that was like the big downer.
Yeah. I mean, I never grew up with pets, so it affected my wife way more than it did me, and I'm also home only half the time. But yeah, it's been a big change of life at home going from 4 cats and 3 or 4 fish tanks to a little boy and 1 cat.
Okay, and you have a big change coming.
Yeah, May 1st, the daughter is coming, which is also going to be a big change.
Really great. So all of this trouble saying goodbye is about to multiply.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. I got a couple of good years in me, I think. My goal is to do at least 5 more years on tour. We'll see how that goes, and then after that, reevaluate.
Yeah. So Owen C. asks, what is your go-to pump-up song? Do you listen to music before or around, or what gets you hype?
Oh, that's interesting, because my playlist, even though a lot of people say they have really random playlists and like they go from a random genre to a totally different one, like mine couldn't be the more weird. It doesn't get more weird. Like I'll listen to a rap song followed by a Disney song, followed by heavy metal, followed to like a love ballad. There's no rule. Anything goes, and I would say my favorites is I like old school. I like Queen a lot. I like the Beatles a lot, and Disney songs. Like I'll listen to Lion King soundtrack before a round.
Yeah. And you're about to listen to Frozen like another million times in the next 6 years.
Yeah, I love Frozen.
Yeah.
I've watched Frozen a lot in the last couple of weeks, and I still love it. I could watch it all day.
But Frozen 2 is better. Can we agree?
Different good.
Okay. Just 2 guys talking about Frozen. I guess then, so you're a musician, so when you listen to, you play at least 2 musical instruments that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
When you listen to music, is it just in the background, or are you really like thinking about the music? And I guess I'm asking is because some people just put their earbuds in and they're there just to like, they putt with the music going on. Do you do that or no?
I very rarely listen to new stuff. I've kind of had the same playlist for too many years. I don't know what's wrong with me, but sometimes I feel like I listen to the same 20 songs on a loop. It's kind of bizarre. It might be a thing people do, but I think I'm a bit extra weird. Yeah, so every song I listen to I know so well. Every song I listen to I can play on piano or guitar, so I don't have to analyze anything anymore. I think I just listen to music normally.
Yeah. Okay, here's a hard-hitting question. Do you see yourself in an ownership position with MVP in the next 10 years?
No.
Business ownership, not of it. I mean, okay, MVP, but I mean, what do you see yourself? What do you want to do after your playing days are over?
Well, my ultimate goal is to, in 10 years, be done having to work. I'm obviously still wanting to do stuff, but I want to be done having to do it. I probably want to be done traveling because I've been doing that for so long. And I don't know, one of my dreams has always been to own a disc golf course. It could be a public thing, public free thing. It could be a pay to play kind of thing with a pro shop and stuff. I've not really decided on that yet. Depends kind of on the situation, I guess, and what opportunities I'll get. But I think, yeah, having my own disc golf property that people can enjoy is the goal.
Okay. I'm going to ask this question about how to develop form. What's the best way to develop form? But I know from our prior conversations that's not really the thing that you think through, but people must come to you for form advice all the time. What do you tell them?
Well, there's some good online courses nowadays. I know a lot of people are working hard to get good lessons out there, even though disc golf is still kind of in that zone where coaches don't really exist and everything's kind of based on like loose theories more than like facts on how to do it right. But there's a lot of people trying out there, so I would recommend checking out an online course and find what works for you. I recommend watching videos and kind of pausing or slow-mo going through each little step and doing one thing at a time. Don't try to overthink it. Because again, the goal is to not think about what you're doing. Just literally keep it simple, do one thing at a time, and once you stop thinking about that one thing, then you move to the next thing. And it's a process, and often you gotta get worse to get better. So some people get really frustrated in the process when they feel like, oh, this is not working, I'm throwing less far or less accurate, then they just give up and go back to their old habits. And sometimes you just gotta accept the process, and it's gonna be rough, and it might take a bit longer than you expect, but it's worth it at the end.
Okay, I got 2 rapid-fire questions before we turn it over to the live audience. What do you eat before a tournament? And if you were a Pokemon, which type would you be?
Wow. Okay, what do I eat? I don't think there's a rule there either. I mean, we're in different places all the time, so it kind of depends where we are, but I would probably just put in my phone breakfast place near me and choose the most highly rated one and get probably like an egg sandwich or something like that.
Is there stuff you avoid, like you know that like I can't have?
No, I've had some of my best rounds of my life feeling miserable. It's hard for me to explain because obviously disc golf is such a mental battle mainly. Once you figured out the mechanics, once you know what you can do physically, that whole part of the game kind of like doesn't even matter anymore. Like it's a mental game. It's like about confidence, about doing the right thing at the right time, making the right decisions, and execution. And that all happens like up here, and it all happens so fast. So I sometimes wonder, like, sometimes physically I feel so bad. I don't know if it's like what I ate or just being a little sick or something. When I won Nashville last year, I was sick all week and couldn't leave my bed. I just made it out to the course. But sometimes when my body feels worse, my brain will like stop worrying too much about the course stuff and more about just feeling better. And then I start playing better. The less I think about actually playing better. It's really bizarre. It's a
Michael
weird.
Jordan had like some of his best games when he was like the flu game or whatever. So there is something to that.
Yeah, I think you got to find whatever works for you to trick your brain into not trying to be good. It's a weird mental twist thing. The other question was Pokemon.
Pokemon, yeah.
I don't know. I grew up in Germany, so all Pokemon in my head is all in German, and it's hard to translate. I don't even know what types there
long
are.
Names, like they go on forever.
Because
The
German words are long?
Yeah, that was a joke, yeah.
I don't know. I'm actually not that into Pokemon. I would be, I think, is there grass type?
Yeah.
I like grass.
Okay, we'll turn it over. If you have a question, raise your hand, and Jackie will come find you with a microphone.
Hi Simon, thanks for being here and giving the talk.
Yeah.
Through the videos I've watched you, I'm an ex-dart player. I see you're skilled at pool, darts, obviously disc golf. Do you feel it came naturally to you, or was there a lot of play time that you just kept getting better and better and better?
I'm going to say something really controversial now. I don't truly believe in the concept of talent or anything coming naturally. I think everything you're naturally good at relates to what you were doing before you were trying this activity. So me being good at throwing stuff, disc golf, obviously naturally will translate into throwing darts. Me being good under pressure and really good with like hand-eye coordination will obviously also make me good at pool and darts. And of course, the toys I played with as a child, I think probably relate to what I'm good at now as well. So no, I've practiced pool so much to be good at it, and darts also I play every day. And I think those kind of games you can only be very good at if you play every day. It's just muscle memory. Similar thing to disc golf, turn off your brain and just let your body do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you play any like mind? Do you play chess or anything where like the brain is the like primary muscle?
No, chess exhausts me.
And you don't have to play chess at the chess.com open, right? That's just going to be disc golf. There's no chess component to the first tournament.
I don't know, for some reason in chess I like break my brain to make a move. Like I want every move to be so perfect, like I just stare at it for so long, I can't handle it. I don't have the patience.
Any other question? We must have questions.
We must not.
No, we do.
Hey Zach, so two questions. Did you name it the Pixel after the P1X, or is that, I don't know if you answered that before?
No, that's actually a total coincidence, and I only noticed it way after the discs were already printed.
I understand it. And are you allowed to talk about like the development of like the MPP robot arm to test disc flights so you get a more consistent thing?
Oh yeah, I can talk about that.
All right.
I haven't heard from the guy, so the guy that reached out to me, he's a just a hobby disc golfer, and he works in the BattleBot industry. So if you watch BattleBots, what network is that on? Is that Cartoon Network?
Moved around a lot. It was like on Spike and then, yeah.
I don't know. It used to be a big deal, and then it kind of went away, and I think now it's kind of making a return. Like if you watch BattleBots on TV, like he is literally one of the guys who has like one of their robots out there fighting another robot. It's mind-blowing stuff. And he wanted to create a disc throwing robot that could create the same exact shot, whatever spin, speed, and angles, whatever you want, just over and over again to like actually properly test discs and have actual proper flight numbers. And we have a prototype. I saw the prototype it's long ago now. I think at the OTB Open I saw the first prototype, and it was throwing pretty light discs, only like 200 feet far, but pretty consistently, and he got it to be pretty straight and accurate. But then I kind of didn't hear from him again for a while. I got a text from him last week saying he's going to ramp it back up now. But as far as I know, it's a work in progress, and I think it's way more tricky for some reason to throw a frisbee throwing robot than we realized. There's way more crazy things behind that, even though for a human it's just like a kind of a simple motion, but for a robot to like recreate the fingers and the spin and the pop, it's crazy.
You can, yeah. I'll repeat your question if you
I
want.
could probably just.
Yeah, sure.
Anyways, I know you mentioned having your own disc golf course and stuff. I wonder if you've been to like Sabatis up
Yeah.
in Maine, and then would it be something like that? In what area of the country? I thought I heard you say you were moving.
Oh yeah, Sabatis is awesome. It would be, I mean, in a dream world, it would be something like that. I was actually looking at a golf course property that was not far from here, like probably 30 minutes west of here, in Westminster. It's called. The Westminster Country Club was for sale, and I looked real deep into it. You know, Steve was a bit of part of that as well. We had a business plan. We had everything ready, and we did so much research on this property and everything we could possibly do to make like a valid offer, but the property was for sale with no price, which was bizarre to me and really annoying because they just kind of waited for people to make an offer. And that would have been a freaking really cool project because it's a really old kind of piece of land with like nice big old trees and some rolling hills back there. Kind of a meh golf course, but that's kind of perfect for disc golf. They had a pretty old clubhouse that would have needed some work as well, but yeah, I mean, multiple courses would be a dream, something for beginners, something for amateurs, and then a pro level course, of course. That would be the ultimate dream. It's like a complex style with a restaurant and bar and pro shop. We'll see if that ever happens. Like, that was close. They ended up rejecting our offer. I don't even know why. They never really got back to us, but I guess they felt like it wasn't enough. No counter offer. So it was kind of shocking.
It is.
But at the same time, when they said no, I was tiny bit glad because it was a huge project that I don't know if I could add that to my list of things to do right now because things are still so wild with travel and MVP and tournaments. It seemed like maybe the right place at the right time, but obviously it wasn't meant to be.
There'll be something. Will it be in this area? I thought I heard you mention you might.
It depends. The main reason we're still here, besides all the obvious reasons why we like being here, is that my mother-in-law lives here, and she's our only support and help with the family. Obviously, all my family is in Germany, and my wife's family is mostly in Puerto Rico or Georgia. So the only support we have and my wife has when I'm gone is her mom. And she's still working for 4 more years. So we're not leaving at least for 4 more years. And after that, we don't know. Depends on a couple things. I mean, Massachusetts is so great for education and safety, and I love being up here. It's close to Europe too. So obviously the disc golf community and the courses are also really, really top notch. Lots of good reasons to stay. And it's kind of sad that the weather is the main reason I want to leave. But unfortunately for the job I have, man, these long winters are rough.
For any job.
Okay, while Jackie's heading up there to that gentleman, I wanted to ask you briefly about New London Tech, where we're playing Worlds this year. You went down. What are your impressions on that course, and how do you think it's going to set up for Worlds?
It's a super tricky course. I think Paul did a really good job designing that course. It's going to challenge everyone in every way. It has the distance, it has the shot shapes and the gaps, and it's mostly wooded and technical, but it has open shots and big bombs as well. So it's going to be a crazy test, and I think a good complement to a golf course that they're setting up as well. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those courses where a 9 down is extremely impressive.
Yes.
Two-parter. Do you have any more beer collaborations coming?
Nothing like solidly planned right now, but Mass Landing has been reaching out again, and they want to do another collab. I did the Crush Juice with them, and then I did the Cloud Pleaser with them. So the third beer, actually Mass Landing also made wedding beers for my wedding 2 years ago, which was awesome. So it's going to be another collab probably in Maine with Mass Landing, and hopefully like an MVP Open release or something this year would be the goal. That would be really cool.
I lived in Portland for 6 years, so seeing you collab there was just a cool little thing. Is there a gap in your bag that you're going to fill with another Simon disc? Or just a gap in the MVP lineup that you've identified?
Yeah, gosh, I don't know like flight numbers and stuff and actual gaps. The next disc that we're working on is a mid-range, because of course I made the 12-speed, then my new putter, and now a mid-range slot, and I'm trying to find something like between reactor and pyro, which the matrix is kind of there. I just want it to feel slightly different. So we're working on a pretty straight with a nice reliable hyzer finish mid-range, which is a perfect complement to the Hex, which is kind of like the straight glidey mid-range. And then I want something that is a bit more reliable in windier conditions. Like a lot of the courses we play on tour don't really allow for these touchy glidey shots like the courses here do. So yeah, that mid-range is something coming, and then the next one I think will be a fairway driver along the Crave, like a complement to the Crave, something like that. Maybe like a bit straighter Crave.
Okay, Simon. My question would be: have you ever tried to throw with your opposite hand, or do you have the ability to throw it pretty good?
Yeah, if you watch not my last video, but the video before that on my YouTube, Eagle and I actually do a little lefty challenge. Eagle is very, very good at throwing lefty. He's been doing it for years now, and he's practicing it. I think if I put, let's say, 2 or 3 months into actually working on my lefty, I would be pretty good. I'm okay right now. I can throw like 320 to 350 feet maybe on a good shot. But I've also never seriously worked on it, even though I've been recommended to work on it from many like health professionals who say it's really good to have a balance, of course, in your body, and doing the same motion over and over is obviously long term not great for anybody. But yeah, it's been a thought that I've had. The one time I actually tried on my YouTube channel to develop a lefty shot, I think I named that video "Making Myself Learn How to Throw Lefty" or something, and then I wanted it to be a series, but then it was one video. It's because the next day I fell off of my one wheel and like freaking sprained my left ankle and couldn't plant on my left foot for like months. So then I gave up on that, but I need to pick it back up, and I think throwing lefty and righty would be a huge thing in the future.
Why didn't you just give up on the one wheel?
I did. Matt Graham has it now.
And what's your favorite season to play disc? Weather-wise, well, climate-wise.
Usually in Massachusetts it's been the spring, just because the winter has been so long and brutal. Like the first day where you can take off your sweater again and throw discs, and it feels like, oh, I'm so free and I have so much range of motion. That's probably my favorite day. The first day of spring where it's like 50, high 50s, low 60s, that's probably the best when the flowers are on the course.
All right, while we look for the next question, I wanted to ask you about the 2022 MVP Open. So, rough first round, incredible second and third rounds, and you basically caught fire the final round and then had to sit in the clubhouse and wait. and then it went your way. Can you just take us through sort of that day and maybe like what that win in front of your hometown fans meant?
I mean, I still don't believe it to this day how that happened. It made no sense to me. I've said it a couple times that a lot of things that happen on disc golf courses don't make logical sense to me. I'm like, how does this happen? Like the odds of stuff happening are sometimes so low. I'm like, this must be a simulation or something. I don't know what it is, but this can't actually be happening. It makes no sense sometimes. I've seen it all. It's unbelievable. So no, it was crazy. I was just sitting there being like this, there's no way this will actually happen. And then, I mean, it was heartbreaking to watch Corey, of course, on the last hole, and he was battling Linus. Was there another guy who was in the race there? I think it was. So it was just crazy. I was like, man, especially after that first round, to be sitting there and be like, wow, there's no way I'm getting this lucky again, because every one of my wins on tour just feels like, how? Because sometimes I feel like I'm not actually playing better. Like something is just making me win. It's the most weird feeling. It's just, I'm like a very logical guy, and I look for like explanations and like reasons behind everything. But sometimes on the course, there's just, I can't explain.
Were you worried about like having to get ready for a playoff, or were you just like whatever happens, happens?
I was not mentally or physically ready or prepared for a playoff. It was a pretty cold day, I remember. My hands were cold, and you know in disc golf, once your hand gets cold, it's so hard to get your hand to warm back up. So I was sitting there for a while. The lead card was pretty far behind us, so it was like 30 minutes, and just kind of obviously really nervous, already shaking my whole body, and my hand was getting cold. And I was sure that if it was going to a playoff, I was just going to be congratulating whoever was going to take it.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
So besides like Smugs and Maple Hill, what other courses in the area do you think could possibly hold a major?
Ooh.
Think about Maine.
Think about Maine. Sabatis, yeah, Sabatis. I think if Sabatis took all three of their courses and made it into one, it would be one really good course. Besides that, I know, you know, Casey White would be the perfect guy to answer this because he remembers every shot, every hole, every course he's ever played. For me, it's all a blur. I couldn't even tell you 3 courses or course names in Maine right now, which is embarrassing because I've been there so many times. I don't know, none come to mind who could hold a major. Steve, you know it.
No, I don't.
No.
I mean, I'm partial to 501. That's where we host our tournament, but I don't know if that's
A major there, that'd
Yeah.
be sick.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes. Go ahead.
Simon, so there's been a lot of talks about majors, and when you look at ball golf and their normal tournaments compared to their major tournaments, there seems to be a lot, it's harder to score, where maybe a major winner might be even par or 1 under. So I guess my first question is, do you think major round scores being at 10 under, 10 under plus is good for the sport, for these high tier tournaments? And if you had whatever your perfect course in mind is, what is the winner of that tournament?
My dream for majors is if we have 4 majors, that we have 4 different style majors. Because disc golf can be played and enjoyed in so many different ways. You know, golf is kind of golf, and there's only really so many things you can do with a golf course, but disc golf you can play anywhere. You can do anything. So I think if we would have 1 major where scoring is easy, let's say in a birdie or die kind of course, that should be 1 major. Then 1 major should be a course where even par is 1,030 or 1,040 rated around. Like, give me OB everywhere and baskets on mounds or whatever. I don't care. Make it as hard as you possibly can to score low. That should be a major. Then we should have 1 major in the woods and 1 major in the open. I think that would be the key to a variety and not lock one thing down that we have to do. Because I think the great thing about disc golf is that it's so different in different places.
Hey Simon, if Eagles Crossing were in the middle of absolute nowhere, does that meet your
vision of what a really good course is, or is that still missing something?
Yeah, I think it's that course and Northwood Black in Peoria, Illinois, and kind of sometimes I feel like that about Idlewild as well. Like, give me a chainsaw for 2 days and I'll make it the best course in the world. Because there's just a couple holes out there on all these courses where I'm just like, man, it's a bit too fluky. Like, sometimes on these holes, like missing your line can be such a benefit over just like barely missing your line. And that's when disc golf gets frustrating for me. So I think if they cleaned up those courses a little bit, yeah, and Eagles Crossing is, I think, aesthetically as close to the greatest thing we have in disc golf. But also, obviously, he's put like, I think, over 7 figures into that course by now. It's a special property, and with a couple less trees, I think it would be the best course in the world.
A couple of minutes left. I wanted to ask you about slow play. How does it affect your game? And do you think the 30-second rule should be enforced by someone other than a player? And well, let's just start there. How does it affect you when you have a slow player on your card? And do you think the 30-second rule should be enforced by someone other than a player?
It's a bit tough because sometimes I feel like we should get rid of the 30-second rule completely and just have it be like a reasonable amount of time you have time to do your shot. Is that what it's like in golf?
Well, in golf, the whole group gets put on a clock if they're not keeping the pace of play. So
Okay.
if the gap opens between cards.
I like that. I think disc golf should get rid of the 30-second rule and adapt to that pace of play and keep up with the card in front of you and don't create backups. And if you do, then a marshal will be there and give warnings. I think that's what it should be. Slow play bothers me zero. I don't care who I play with or how long they take. I've been doing it long enough, nothing really affects me out there.
So, okay, so that was the next question. I mean, you don't have like a hothead or someone who's having like, someone who's verbally like angry at themselves, you just let it go, it doesn't bother you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not really pleasant to be around someone who's just so down and negative the entire time. But again, I tell myself if I'm playing with one of those guys, then that makes me play better. And if I'm playing with happy guys, that makes me play better.
Do you have a dream card like that you want to see?
I think nowadays a really cool card would be Macbeth, Ricky Wysocki, me and Eagle. Just kind of like, I want to say we still feel like young guys, but we're kind of like the veterans on tour now. So that would be like a nice throwback card to like 2016.
It'd be difficult crowd control though. I'm not sure there'd be anybody watching any other cards.
Yeah, my goal when I go out there, I want a nice gallery, I want entertaining disc golf, and I think those players who make crowds happen and who give us entertaining disc golf, that's who I want to play with.
All right, it's 2 minutes to 3 o'clock, and I wanted to thank you. Let's have a hand for Simon.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you.